Hi, and welcome to the Muslim Sex Podcast. This is Dr. Sadaf Lodhi, and I would love for you to leave me a review of this podcast and also to share and like it and share it with your friends, see what they think, and let me know. I would love to shout you out on social media. And also, I would love for you to follow me on Instagram at Dr. Sadaf OBGYN, as well as TikTok. I also have started a YouTube channel at Dr. Sadaf Intimacy Coach. I'd love for you to follow me on all of those channels. And most importantly, I'd love for you to become a patient. I am now accepting telehealth patients for sexual health as well as menopause health in New York and Michigan. So if you are a woman that is looking for a doctor that understands you and can actually take the time to listen to all of your concerns, reach out to me. Reach out at Dr. Sadaf at drsadaf.com. And I would love to see you as a patient. And now for the episode. I'm an American board certified OBGYN, a mom, a Muslim, and I'm talking about sex. This is the Muslim Sex Podcast. Welcome to the Muslim Sex Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Sadaf Lodhi, and this episode is everything you need to know about healthy living and intimacy. Before I get into it, the first thing I want to make very clear is that I am not giving any type of medical advice. So if you have any questions about your health, please speak with your friendly neighborhood healthcare provider. And if you have any questions about your religion, please speak with your religious leader. This is the Muslim Sex Podcast because I just happen to be a Muslim woman that talks about sex. So today I am super excited to have on with me Dr. Alicia Shelly. And Dr. Shelly, please, if you could introduce yourself to the viewers and the listeners out there.
Hello, I am Dr. Alicia Shelly. I'm a board certified internal medicine, obesity medicine physician. I practice outside in the suburbs of Atlanta, Georgia. I got into this field because I struggled with my weight basically all majority of my life. And so I ended up wanting to learn more about how I could not only help me live a more healthier life, but then also how can I help others? And so I've been doing this for about 7 years now, and it's been great. It's something I truly enjoy. As far as things that I enjoy doing outside of work, is I enjoy doing triathlons, marathons, things that kind of help with challenging me to kind of stay healthy. So that's just a little bit more about me.
Yes, and I would love for you to tell the viewers and the listeners about your marathons.
Yeah, so I wasn't an athlete. I started running literally 2016, so like 8 years ago. And I started off from the couch and would try to do a 5K and then enjoyed it and was like, well, let me do more and more. And before you know it, I was doing marathons. And so my goal is to do all six of the Abbott major marathons. I've done three and just recently finished the London Marathon in April. And
Wow.
so now my next goal for this month, or not this year, is to do an Ironman in Maryland. So went from marathon to an Ironman, but it all works together. So it's something that I enjoy doing, especially with the Ironman. It's a three sport, so it's not just running, but it's swimming and biking together. So it's kind of a combination, all in the same day.
I know that is amazing. That wow, that is like I don't even think I can imagine doing that. But that wow, that is really takes a lot of commitment and drive and dedication. So I applaud you for that. That is completely amazing. But so let's get into our episode. So we are talking about healthy living, and you don't have to run a marathon for anyone that's listening or watching. But we're talking about healthy living and intimacy and how that can be affected. So tell me a little bit what you see in your practice.
Yeah, so a lot of times I help people with losing weight, and sometimes what we don't realize with it, we think it's more of how we look, but it actually really goes to the root of the problem for people. If you don't like the way you look, when you're intimate with your partner, you don't want to be intimate. You don't want to be able to remove your clothing and kind of expose yourself to this partner, even if you had this partner for a long time. And so sometimes by not only losing weight It also increases your self confidence. It increases your drive. You have more energy. It increases your endorphins, so you're more happier. But then also, it can lead to a healthier and a more fulfilling sexual life.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that, as we talked about once before, is that, body image has a lot to do with our thoughts, right? And how we see ourselves. And it doesn't really matter the weight that you're in, it really matters how you feel. And I think that when you are confident and, love your own body, then you are able to then share that love with somebody else and share your life and your physical being with that other person, right? But I think it all starts with our thoughts and how we feel about ourselves. So what are some ways that you help people to basically live their best life and, with the healthy living that you teach individuals? What do you suggest?
You know what? I agree with everything you just said. And I think I would definitely have them start off. The first thing is to start off with how you perceive it and your thoughts. Like you said, a lot of times when we look at trying to stay healthy, it's overwhelming. Like there's so much stuff we need to do. We need to drink water. We need to exercise. We need to eat healthy. We need, in our minds, we're like, I don't want to
Right.
eat all these salads. So it can be very overwhelming for people to want to even take any healthy lifestyle steps. So the first thing is change your perspective and how you look at it. Think of it instead of I
Mm,
have to do this as an opportunity to I get to do it. And then
mm,
next, find one or two things in your lifestyle that you can change. It doesn't have to be everything all at once. It can actually be small baby steps or small goals. The one thing that I've noticed with my patients, sometimes we'll have a consultation and we'll talk about like what are some things they need to change. But then I tell them, just pick one or two things that you want to start with. You don't have to do all of this all at once. So pick the one to two things and choose which one, and then whatever you decide, schedule it. Put it in your
yeah.
daily lifestyle because our schedule. Because sometimes we are so busy that I don't know for you. Sometimes I'm just so glad to get home and just sit there and just take a deep breath because you're just
Right.
moving throughout the day.
Yeah.
So whatever you decide to do, just do one or two things, schedule it, and then make sure you have somebody who can keep you accountable afterward. And this is where you can actually, if you trust your partner, be able to get your partner on board too to help you to be that accountability. Some partners aren't as great, but some partners may be. And this is one way you guys can help each other with kind of achieving a more healthier lifestyle by choosing one or two things yourself. Mm.
I love that. I think one of the most important things is scheduling it in, right? And it sounds like such an easy thing, but I find that I'm most productive when I actually write stuff down in my calendar as opposed to just trying to remember it and trying to remember to do something, right? When we actually write it down, that it makes us accountable to ourselves. And I love the fact that you also said that you can get your partner involved and have them help you be accountable. And I feel that when you do that, you can also increase the intimacy between you and your partner, right? We both know that there's more than just physical intimacy. There's emotional, there's spiritual, there's intellectual. So to build that emotional intimacy, we can just do things together, right? It's when you build that trust and you are able to be vulnerable with your partner. And so when you have your partner that keeps you accountable to your goals and your dreams, then you build that connection, you build that bond between each other, and then hopefully maybe that will lead to physical intimacy, but in the meantime that connection connects you and builds that emotional intimacy so that you're doing things together.
No, yeah, exactly. Because, and I do find as well, like this is a way how you all can connect. And sometimes we
Yeah.
think we're communicating with our spouse, but we
Yes.
aren't. We just expect them
Right.
to know. Like, don't you know this is what I'm trying to do? And they're like, no, I have no clue. So this allows us to kind of be able to be open and share. And like you said, connect emotionally. Because sometimes if you can connect intellectually and emotionally, it makes the physical connection so much greater.
Yes.
So much greater.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I agree with you. I think that, telling, like you just said, right? It's important to communicate what your objectives are and what your goals are and things like that so that you don't find your partner trying to, not that they're trying to sabotage you, but that, like encouraging you to have like, I don't know, like 5 Sundays or something like that. I don't know anyone who eats 5 Sundays, but if you were, like if that's not your goal, if that's not what you're trying to do, then at least you have somebody else on board saying like, hey, maybe you just want to keep it to 1 Sunday today, not 5, right? Something like that. So I agree. I think it's really important to let kind of everyone know so that everyone can help you in your goals. And especially if you're trying to just live a healthy life, right? Whether that's just going outside for 2 hours during the week, which we both know is so important for mental health, right? To be out in nature and or just being more mindful when we're eating or trying to be more mindful in our relationships and when we're with somebody else. So I think that's really important. What are some other ways that you help individuals maintain a healthy lifestyle?
Yeah. The one other thing I was going to say is that it is important too that people monitor their stress level. And one way how
Mm,
you can do that, physical activity helps, having time for yourself, you meditate. And because once you're less stressed, not only does it help
yeah,
you to lose weight and to be more healthy, it allows you to have a little bit more intimacy with your partner because you're not as stressed, you're not as wound up because you're able
yeah,
to kind of let that go.
yeah,
And it also leads to more, not only emotionally, spiritually, but just increased connectivity with your partner too. And so stress is important. So finding ways to reduce your stress, which only helps you live longer. When they compare Americans to like Europeans, they find that Europeans tend to have a higher tend to live longer. And the reason is because we have a difference in our stress level and what we do. Also, probably even if we eat probably about the same, it's just the fact that they retire early. They if you look at the Spaniards, they have a siesta. Like they're in America, we kind of keep going, 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 going. Whereas in
right,
Europe, there's more relaxation. Let's come, let's drink, let's enjoy each other. So
right.
stress reduction is very important. Mhm.
Yeah, I love how you said that because I think that we all know that when we are stressed, then we are not able to focus on the person at hand or our task at hand, right? Our mind feels cluttered, we feel overwhelmed. There's just so many things to do. And so when you're trying to connect with your partner, and if you're stressed, that's just going to be one more thing that you have to do that day, right? And so you're definitely not going to want that. And that's absolutely going to lead to like a decreased desire, decreased arousal and libido and all of that. So I think what you said, trying to declutter your mind. And again, that's where like that mindfulness comes in, right? And just focusing on one thing and being really present in the moment without judgment and showing yourself compassion. I think that really leads to basically improvement in our life and decreases stress and improves our relationships with our partners. And I think that, just like what you said, trying to minimize our stress is really important. I heard a TED talk one time, and they also said that trying to be very granular with our words and our feelings. So, for example, if we say that we're stressed,
Mhm.
stress is such a vague word, right? That we don't really know. I mean, it encompasses so much, and we don't really know where that stress is coming from. But if we use perhaps a word that says, I'm feeling overwhelmed because I have so many projects due at this time, then we can take care of the problem a little bit easier as opposed to saying I'm stressed because we don't know where that stress is coming from, and it's harder to come up with a solution when we're not very specific with what's causing that stress and that overwhelm, and perhaps it's just having too many things on your plate.
I agree because sometimes if are more like having that, you're actually looking and actually seeking exactly what's causing it. It makes it
Yeah,
a lot easier for you to be able to address it and try to find ways to get around it. Because sometimes you're like, I just feel stressed, and if you don't know what's causing it, you're just going to stay in that stressed mode. But if you're able to kind of figure that out and be like, okay, it's not this, it's work, or it's this obligation, or something else I have to do, you can be able to kind of manage manage it mentally, instead of just allowing it to kind of fester and kind of build up. And then before you know it, not only are you feeling stressed just emotionally, but then physically, your body's tight, you're
Yeah.
just kind of on edge, things are just irritating you, your spouse is irritating you. Just kind of this downward
Yes,
spiral. So it is important to be able
absolutely.
to address it. And I liked how you said about taking that time to not only be accountable, but just realizing and not putting so much pressure on ourselves. I think sometimes, I know personally, I do this where you feel like you want to be a perfectionist. You have so much that you're trying to accomplish, and you want it to be perfect, but it's just not enough. And so sometimes by removing that expectation of perfection, it makes it a lot easier, and you find that you're less overwhelmed because you're not trying to meet this arbitrary um, standard that you set for yourself. Mm.
Right. Right, absolutely. So, is there ever a time where you would recommend medication for a healthy lifestyle? What would be an indication for that?
Yeah, so definitely most anti-obesity medications are actually recommended for somebody who has a body mass index of greater than 27. And that basically
Mm,
looks at your height and weight to see kind of where you are on that health range, whether you in the normal weight range, overweight, or obesity range. And so definitely if you are 27 and higher, you're in that overweight and higher to obesity range. As far as and it also depends on how much weight you want to lose. So if you were to do it diet and exercise alone, that's on average 5 to 10%. Some people do more, some people do less, but 5 to 10% with diet and exercise alone. But if you're really trying to lose a little bit more than that, then I would recommend starting medications because that can help with kickstarting you. Most anti obesity medications help by curbing your appetite so you're not as hungry, allowing you not to feel as full when you eat, so you eat smaller portions, and it helps with cravings too. So
mm,
with that, it kind of helps reduce some of the different factors that make it more difficult for us to lose weight. And so, if you're one that needs more, and usually depending on the medication, you can lose between 15, and some studies have shown for other medications, 20% of your weight with
wow.
medication. So it kind of gives you a little bit more of a kickstart.
Wow. Yeah, I think that, of course, the hot medication right now is Ozempic, and a lot of people can't even get their hands on it because I think people are using it to lose weight. And what do you think about that medication?
Yeah. So Ozempic has been out since 2017. It's FDA approved for diabetes, and we've been using it for diabetes. It was a really still a go-to medication that I would use to help control someone's diabetes. The one thing I like about it is that it helps my patients with losing weight as well, because for some people who have diabetes, specifically type 2, they have this increase of insulin in their body, which actually leads to more weight deposits. So it makes it harder for them to lose weight. And Ozempic really helped people to be able to curb their appetite so that they can actually start to lose weight. The reason why is such a hot commodity right now is because
Yeah.
they're the same medication. Let me just step back here. The generic of Ozempic is called semaglutide. The company
Mm,
that makes Ozempic also took semaglutide and got it approved for weight loss. So there's another one that's called
mhm.
Wegovy. So Ozempic and Wegovy are the same medication, but
Oh,
just different doses. And unfortunately, because Wegovy is so popular, there was a back order. I mean, there's a backlog on it. And they came back, but now there's still a back order, unfortunately. Hopefully until October, we're crossing our fingers here. But since there's such a backlog, people are having to go to Ozempic because that has the lower doses. So with this particular medication, one of the side effects, or some of the side effects, can include nausea, upset stomach, constipation, diarrhea, depending on the person. And so you don't want to start off at the highest dose. You want to start off at
God,
the lowest dose and taper up
yeah.
slowly. And unfortunately, what's on back order is the lower
Lower dose.
doses. So
Ah,
you have to go to Ozempic to get the lower doses so you can taper up to the higher dose of Wegovy. So that's why you
wow.
can't find it because we're trying to taper people up. Mhm.
Wow. Okay. Well, thank you for that because, As a gynecologist, I'm really not prescribing it, really at all. I mean, I don't really prescribe Ozempic. So I think, I guess I was a little bit curious to find out what the big craze was about Ozempic. And it seems like a lot of people tend to lose a lot of weight. And I think that it's been on TikTok and this and that. So I think that a lot of people, now know about Ozempic and are interested. In going on it so that they can lose weight. So, but I mean, typically, I'm sure that you probably don't recommend going on medications before you try like lifestyle changes.
Well, you know what? What people don't realize that most people that come to me have tried lifestyle changes already. Like they've tried
Mm,
multiple different diets. This was not their first rodeo to come see me. First of all, it takes a little bit of time to come see me. So you would have tried something prior to that. And so by the time they've come see me, it's like all my lifestyle changes are not working. Now, mind you, Ozempic is a tool. These medications are tools. So we still enlist diet and exercise. It's not just one
um,
thing. It's not just you. This is the only thing that you take. I have people who've gained weight on medications because they weren't able to control the diet. There was something else that they like. It was actually probably just more stress, and the person was just stress eating, and they weren't necessarily
mm,
controlling that diet and exercise. But it's a recommendation to have both. You need
yeah.
both in order to be successful because there may come a time when you're not necessarily going to be on medication. And then the other thing I would say is that obesity is a chronic disease. It's
Yeah.
a chronic disease is due to the dysfunction of adipose tissue that can actually lead and be associated with multiple medical conditions. And so sometimes
Mm,
by losing weight, it actually will improve your blood pressure. It will improve your diabetes and
yeah.
many other medical conditions. So if you think about somebody who has high blood pressure, you wouldn't bat an eye if you started them on medication to treat that blood pressure. And for obesity, for some people, they still need to be on it because once they get off that medication, the weight starts to come right back. And so, if we can help reduce those medical conditions, those medical complications with medications, then it's well worth it.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I think that's a very good point, and that's something that we don't and it's probably due to the way that we view obesity, right? And we view it as that, "Oh, well, it's, that person's problem, and they just need to stop eating so much and increase their exercise," right? Where there's a huge stigma with obesity, and so I think that we don't offer the same compassion and kindness that we would to somebody that is suffering from high blood pressure or diabetes or something like that, right? We just automatically assume and lay blame on the person as opposed to seeing it as a chronic condition or a chronic disease. So I think that's really important what you just said. Now, tell me, just circling back to intimacy, I think that, what are other ways that you have helped patients, achieve their healthy lifestyle so that they can maintain a healthy intimacy with their partner?
Oh yeah. So I think we talked about mindset. We talked about also giving yourself grace. The other thing I would say too, it is important to have a healthier diet. I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about diet and exercise because it is important. Don't get me wrong.
Of
It's not
course,
the
of
end all
course.
be all thing, but it's definitely important to kind of help you feel better because even if you don't lose any weight and you just change your diet and start moving more, you're going to feel better. Like you all will
Yeah.
feel better because you're releasing endorphins. And so it is important to have a more healthier lifestyle, a healthier diet. Now, as far as there's multiple diets that are out there, and the one thing I'll say is that the diet that works for you is a diet that you can maintain. Because a lot of times
Mm,
we'll get on a diet and it'll restrict so much and we'll lose weight. We'll lose 10, we'll lose 20 pounds with it, but it'll come right back because it's not something that's sustainable. So I
yeah.
would always recommend to find something that is sustainable and then make small steps in trying to eat healthy, have more of a balanced diet. So it's making sure that you still get your fruits, your vegetables in, you have your protein, you have your complex carbs or your starches, so that you can be able to have that balance. And I would not restrict yourself as far as with the types of food. Now, I wouldn't eat, like you said, 5 Sundays, but if for some reason you have a small cup of ice cream, it's not going to ruin, your diet. What ruins the diet is when we continue to eat and just kind of go downhill. So sometimes it's good to allow yourself certain foods that kind of give you a little bit of joy, that kind of increases your dopamine receptors, that give that reward center. But you don't feel like you're restricting yourself. That's what I'm trying to say. Don't restrict yourself. But then also making sure you're getting your water in. Reducing, avoiding sugary beverages is going to be important too, as far as with having a healthier principles of the diet. And then also when it comes to physical activity, finding things you enjoy doing. We
Mm,
mentioned, one way how to connect a little bit with your spouse is engaging them with what you're doing. So that's something you guys are doing together, whether it's going to the gym, taking a walk, hiking, whatever it is that you all enjoy doing, do that. Because
yeah.
if you hate going to the gym, you're gonna still hate going to the gym. You're just not gonna like it. But if you find something that you enjoy, you're more apt to do it and be consistent with it.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah. And, just like what you just said, building that connection, right? Building that intimacy with your partner doesn't have to be just simply physical intimacy. Actually, at this point, you're talking more about the experiential intimacy, right? Doing things together that creates that bond and that love for not only whatever it is that you're doing, but also for each other. And I think that that is a great way to connect and motivate each other to live more healthy and to be more mindful when you are perhaps eating or doing things outside so that you can really enjoy each other's company and just doing those things together, right, really just seems to connect people more and to continue to build intimacy with each other. So I think the more things that you're able to do together as a couple or, with your family or whatever, only builds that connection more and really motivates people, I think, more, right? Because it's harder to stay motivated when you're doing things alone. But when you have a group or you have a partner or somebody else to do it with, then that motivation continues.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. It's so much easier when you have a partner, because even when you don't want to go, maybe they'll go and they'll kind of pull you along. So it's so much easier having an accountability partner. And it's better if it's your spouse.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So tell me now, if you were to give somebody that's listening to this podcast, where if you were to give them three pearls of wisdom regarding healthy living and what they could do to start right away for healthy living and eventually leading to more intimacy with their partner, what would you suggest?
So I would say number one, decide what you're going to do and then start. A lot of times we're like, oh, I need to do this, I need to do that, and we don't do it. We just kind of like say, put it on the to do list, and then it's just like this long to do list is just getting longer and we don't do it. And so the next thing I would say, because having that having that talk with your partner about the reason why you want to be healthy. Because sometimes your partner may be like, well, you look fine, you don't need to lose weight, but there's more to it, than just losing weight. It's like, no, I want to be healthier. I want to get off my medications. I want to be able to move better. I want to be able to keep up with you. I want to be able to have sex for long periods of time. And I can only do that if I live a healthier life. So making sure that you communicate with your spouse kind of the reason why you want to do it, so that hopefully they'll be able to be on board with you and be able to want to join you in some of your activities too. And then also, communicate, and maybe you guys can come up on how different things that you can do to stay physically active outside of the home, whether it's just, walking, taking hiking, things of that nature. So that'd be number three. So making sure that you communicate. I'm sorry, start with number one again. Number one, make sure you decide and start. Number two, make sure you're communicating the reason why you're doing it with your spouse. And then number three, you all decide what works best for you as far as with how you can be physically active, and then also how you all can do it together.
Yeah, yeah, that is awesome. So, well, I want to thank you for coming on. But before we go, I want everyone to know how they can reach out to you, where they can find you. They see you, they think that you're amazing. I think you're amazing for all of these marathons that you are running. I can't believe that you started from the couch and now you're running, training for the Iron Woman. And, you've run like how many marathons have you run, by the way?
Seven marathons.
Ooh, 7.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Wow, I can't even imagine. So that is so, so impressive. So for anyone that wants to maybe follow your journey or
Mhm.
to get in touch with you and reach out to you or see you as a doctor, how can they get in touch with you?
Yes, well, definitely you can follow me on Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook at Dr. Shelly MD. And then also, I have a podcast called the Back on Track Achieving Healthy Weight Loss Podcast. You can just Google search Back on Track in any place you listen to podcasts, and that'll pop up. And then, most importantly, if you go to my Instagram page, I have the link where you can follow me on my website, drshellyMD.com, where you can get information on my practice.
That is awesome. Do you have somewhere on your website or on your Instagram where you also kind of journal your marathons and your
Mhm.
journey?
Yes, I do. I On Instagram is where I usually will post my marathon exploits, my marathon swimming exploits, whatever it is for the
Oh my
week.
gosh. That is I am so impressed. I'm going to have to fly out to Atlanta just so I can learn how to swim with you.
You're more than come on down, come on down.
Yeah.
Happy to show you.
That is so amazing. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Shelley. Thank you so much for your time. And well, we are done here, and it's been real and really intimate. And remember, this is not meant to be any type of medical advice. So if you have any medical concerns, please speak with your healthcare provider. And until next time, this is the Muslim Sex Podcast. So thank you for listening to the podcast, and make sure you leave us a review, share and like the podcast. And if you leave me a review, I'd love to shout you out on social media. So be sure that you share it with all your friends. And thanks for listening.